Committee will now have under consideration RS23579. Representative Shepard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, committee. I hope you're on a roll and the next one goes about the same.
Don't bet on anything.
This RS is a call upon our state legislature through a joint resolution to call upon the U.S. Congressman and bring clarity to the United States Congress as a whole that the power of the United States judiciary's purpose is to interpret as close to the original intent as possible and rule in compliance of executive and legislative branches to the Constitution and its original intent, to keep their oath of office, which is to uphold the law, not to make or change it, or face the possibility of impeachment proceedings. So that's what it's about, and I'll read a couple parts. I won't read the whole thing, but starting on line 8. Whereas the opening words of the Constitution of the United States, we the people, are by deliberate design and with intent to define the governing authority of our United States and the states within our republic and the authority that resides with the people. And whereas the people of the United States of Idaho on November 7, 2006, cast their votes on a proposal referred by the Idaho legislature to amend the Constitution of the state of Idaho to define marriage, and the amendment passed with a wide majority. And whereas in 1888, the Supreme Court of the United States stated that marriage is an institution in the maintenance of which its purity, the public is deeply interested, for it is the foundation of the family and the society, without which there would be neither civilization nor progress. And I skip down to line 38. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the members of the first regular session of the 63rd Idaho Legislature, the House of Representatives, and the Senate concurring therein, that we call upon the United States Congress to bring clarity to the principle that the role of the United States judiciary is to interpret as close to the original intent as possible and rule on compliance with the original intent of the Constitution by the executive and legislative branches, and the principle that judges of the United States judiciary should keep their oath of office to uphold the law and not make or change the law. Be it further resolved that a judge of the United States judiciary who disregards his oath of office to uphold the law, but rather makes or changes the law, should be impeached by Congress. So with that, my first intent is, number one, if the state of Idaho would agree with this, a House concurrent resolution maybe doesn't carry much weight, and maybe it ends up in the garbage can. But at least if we can say Idaho stands for this, based on the fact that we passed that constitutional amendment, then that's the reason I think we do need a vote to show if Idaho does really support it. Then, there towards the end of what I read, the original intent is very important, and there's probably disagreement on that. But original intent is the only common ground we have. Agenda interpretation is what we're all unhappy with. And if we can fight it out on agenda basis and we have no common ground, we probably can't come to a solution. So I think we have to look at the original intent, look at the wording, then look at how they lived after they signed the Constitution, what did they do, and then I think any honest and reasonable person can arrive at original intent. The other purpose with this is to support the governor and the attorney general's legal case and any other cases around the U.S. I happened to wake up in the middle of the night and turned on the TV, and I saw the rerun of the Wallace Sunday program, and he had the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Alabama interviewing him. And I couldn't believe his whole concerns and topic of that discussion was pretty much what I'm saying. We have serious problems. The courts just do their own interpretation. They make law, they change the law, and that is totally against their oath of office. And there's a lot of other cases around the United States. That's why I think it's worthwhile doing this, because then we'll show that Idaho's on board. Because I think the time is ripe to get back to our Constitution, not just on the marriage issue. This is just, it covers all issues anywhere, whether it's the Commerce Clause, the Primacy Clause, all of the various things that they're totally, obviously not correct on how they're ruling. They're ruling just in favor of their agenda. The other attempt by doing this for me is to fulfill my oath of office by showing judges they're accountable, just like all of us are accountable in government. Each branch of government has responsibility to provide checks and balances to the other branches. So with that, I guess I will face the music you're going to put on me.
Thank you, Representative Shepherd. Do we have any questions for Representative Shepherd? Representative McCrosty?
Madam Chairman. Good Representative, there was a section in this, as you were reading through the proposed memorial, from lines 26 to lines 37, and that seems to be probably the what could become one of the more contentious parts of this. Can you describe that, those 11 lines for me?
Representative Shepherd.
Thank you, Chairman and Representative McCrosty. There's a disagreement in the courts across the United States, and that's my purpose, is to stick up for the side that's upholding the Constitution and its original intent and push back on any agenda interpretations. And that's where I'm going.
Do you have a follow-up, Representative McCrosty?
Follow-up, Madam Chairman?
Yes, a follow-up.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Representative Shepherd, this whole concept of judicial activism is a concept that cuts both ways. It has helped and hindered both sides of all kinds of arguments throughout the course of history, going back to Marbury versus Madison. Can you perhaps along those lines address the 3/5 compromise that allowed, back in the formation of the Constitution, the constitutional framers' intent on allowing the 3/5 compromise?
Representative Shepherd, if
Thank
you'd
you,
address that pertaining to the bill,
Madam
please.
Chairman. All I can say is that's why I spent a little time saying how important original intent is. They did all that compromise and everything, arrived at the Constitution, and so now we don't have to do that. What we have to do is figure out original intent, be honest, sincere, no matter if it hurts our side or not, and stick up for the original intent.
Thank you, Representative Shepherd. Representative Andrus?
Thank you,
Were you-
Madam Chairman and Representative Shepherd. In the statement of purpose, if you have that before you, on the first line, the last word, it says U.S. Congressman. Do you mean that to be singular, or would you want that to be congressmen?
Representative Shepherd?
Madam Chairman, Representative Andrus, Congressman.
Thank you.
The Secretary will make note of that change. Thank you. Representative Luker? I'm sorry, Representative Andrus, did you have additional questions? Thank you. Representative Luker?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman, and Representative Shepherd. I just had a question regarding page 2 on the resolution, lines 4 through 6. And basically, it's calling upon Congress to impeach a judge that makes or changes the law. And that's a fairly broad statement. And I understand what your intent is. I'm trying to look at it that way. However, there are many judicial decisions that have struck down a law as unconstitutional based on what you would consider original intent. And yet, caught up in that is the fact that they're changing a law, they're overturning a law. And so, to me, this seems like a fairly broad statement to request impeachment of a judge, and I guess that's what I'm wrestling with here. I'm certainly not trying to undermine what you're saying in terms of original intent, but this just is a very broad statement in terms of the basis for impeaching a judge. Can you help me with that?
Representative Shepherd.
I think what my intent is that the judges, by their oath of office and their intent of their job, is to uphold the Constitution and correct injustices. And those injustices can only be places where there's something that is not pursuant to the Constitution and or the laws that are pursuant to the Constitution. So if they did change something that's unjust, of course they have that right. But if it was unjust, it wasn't pursuant to the Constitution. So I'm not really changing anything. I'm just upholding the Constitution. Does that answer the question?
Would you like a follow-up, Representative Luker?
No, I'll go ahead and take that answer.
Thank you. Do we have additional questions? Representative Crane.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and Representative Shepherd. Picking up on the line of questioning where Representative Luker is headed, would you be comfortable, so it's a print hearing, so we could strike language or insert language, would you be comfortable on line 5 after the comma, striking the words, but rather make or changes the law, striking that section out? So it would read as follows, Madam Chairman. Be it further resolved that a judge of the law of the United States Judiciary who disregards his oath of office to uphold the law should be impeached by Congress. Would you be okay with something along that line?
Representative Shepherd, after you've had a minute to read that, feel free to respond.
Yes, Madam Chairman, I guess that is kind of repetitive. It still says the same thing the way I read it. So I guess, yeah, I'd be fine with that.
Representative Crane, do you have a follow-up?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Do we have any additional questions? Representative Luker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And following up on Representative Crane's comment, again, what it seems to me you're concerned about here is upholding the Constitution. And laws may be constitutional or they may not be constitutional. So as long as we're wordsmithing here, if instead of saying the law, it said the Constitution in line 5, I think that's really what you're trying to get at, isn't it?
Representative Shepherd.
Madam Chairman, Representative Luker, no, because if it's not a law, it's not proper if it's not constitutional. All laws have to be pursuant to the Constitution. There's no way around that. I see no way. That's where our problem comes. We're letting laws happen that aren't pursuant to the Constitution. And so, no, I think we got to stick with that position. It's just like I could use an example like our rules. They have to explain the intent of the legislation. They can't change it, they can't increase it, decrease it. All they can do is be congruent with it. And that's what I'm saying. Any laws are not valid if they're not pursuant to the Constitution.
Representative Luker, a follow-up.